new comment on my video. Oh my God, I wonder what it says. I was curious about how the trans community was toxic, but you spent so long recording yourself driving and walking up and down stairs, I stopped watching. You're toxic for formatting your videos this way. Well, thank you for loving me enough to be honest with me. Look, okay, I know what you're thinking. Charlotte, if you're devoting hours towards a hobby, shouldn't the quality of your videos get better every time? You're just gonna have to roll with the punches with me this week because I was trying to get the lighting like all situated for the video, and in the midst of that, I ended up breaking my tripod, so. Give this video a thumbs up if you think I should get my lazy ass to Best Buy and buy a new tripod, or leave a comment below if you like this more intimate setting. Today's video, I wanted to talk about domestic violence, mainly because I do see that it's pretty rampant in the trans community. In reality, I think it could really help anybody because it's not limited to the trans experience, but you know, I do see in my videos sometimes people are like, wow, this is great advice even for not trans people. We all have a limited range of emotion, right? And the human experience is pretty similar no matter what, but I see the world from a trans lens, and but it's still the human experience. So if you guess something from the videos, then by all means. So let's take a look at the statistics of domestic abuse within trans women. It says more than half, 54% to be exact, experience some form of intimate partner violence. Now, I think that that's a very modest statistic, mainly because it's almost every trans relationship I see, or trans women in a relationship, there is experience of domestic abuse. Now, don't come for me, girl. I know some of you guys are gonna say, oh, no, my great-grandmother's friend who was transgender, her and her husband lived 40 years, or you might be experiencing a relationship that is healthy and happy. I'm happy for you. However, again, this channel is the world from my lens, and I have not seen it. Now, I mean, but I could be wrong, so let's just go with the statistics, which is still overwhelming. 54%, that's pretty overwhelming for me. The way that love bombing works is initially when you find your partner, they're great, they're sweet, they're sweeping you off your feet, and you feel like you're in a fairy tale movie. I get that, but it's kind of like crab in water. You don't throw crabs in boiling water. You just kind of raise the temperature. And at least from my experience, there were definitely red flags before I got a shiner on my face. You get what I mean? So to get to the root of that, we're gonna have to talk about attraction for a second, right? Because attraction isn't a logical thing. You know when you're attracted to somebody when they walk into the room. And that's because your brain can only make a certain amount of decisions per day. So you're not gonna sit there and say, okay, this person is attractive to me because I have analyzed their hips to shoulder ratio. I can tell that we would make good offspring together. Your brain can't do all that. So we don't date with our logic, we date with our subconscious. And the thing about the subconscious is that it would rather be right than be happy. We can use me as an example. Give me a guy that has a steady job, is attractive, decent in bed, emotionally mature, has a good relationship with his family, is confident in his sexual orientation. There's one thing I can tell you about that relationship. Wanna guess? I wouldn't be interested. What? That's fucking crazy, right? We can all agree that is crazy. If I was to sit down and find someone on paper who was perfect for me, I would have zero interest, and I'd tell him to take a hike. Why? Because my subconscious would rather be right than be happy. We've talked in a previous video about how the conscious for your self-image kind of works, right? Is that water has to level. What you view about yourself, you have to get validation from the outside world. Otherwise, your subconscious goes fucking nuts. It's two opposing ideas can't be right. You cannot have a bad image about yourself and feel that you are undeserving of love, and then find a partner that loves you unconditionally and treats you with the amount of respect that you are entitled to. Your subconscious has a way of identifying that. I've also said before that we communicate 90% through body language and tone. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because I don't want to sound like I am victim blaming. However, what I'm talking about is from like certain experiences of having habitual abusive relationships, right? Because when I look back at certain partnerships in my life, there were definitely certain red flags that I chose to ignore or even got more invested into the relationship because it started speaking to an inner monologue I had about myself. And if I could fix this relationship, perhaps I could fix certain aspects of myself that needed healing. Subconscious. Psyche is like fucked, right? Obviously, it would be a lot more comfortable to blame the perpetrator and say that they're assholes and just kind of write off the situation. However, as CEO of your life, it's good to take stock and look at reoccurring circumstances and figure out what the common denominator is. And if the common denominator is you, then you owe it to yourself to make some adjustments to better your life. With that being said, I think that there's a lot of things to unpack, you know, like perhaps maybe you and I are close enough where we can start talking about like at-home upbringings. And, you know, I am not with the method of blaming your parents for everything, but what were your demonstrations of love in your life? For me, I felt like love was a very, there was like a lot of turmoil in it, and it was like really loud where I wouldn't really know how to react to a guy who was like, hey, like, maybe we should take like some space and like understand that there was a point in my, you know, young adult life where I would just be like, okay, if he's not freaking out at the idea of like this all like ending, then perhaps he just doesn't care about me enough. You know, I really had to sit down and analyze myself and come to terms with the idea that abuse equaled love to me, and also that in some ways I was addicted to the drama. In conclusion to all that, we date with what our inner monologue, what is repeated back to us from our inner psyche, and also what is familiar to us. Okay, that's enough psychology for the day. Let's move over to science. A lot of people might be wondering why victims of abusive relationships don't just walk away. If someone's an asshole to you all the time, don't you just walk away? Unless you have been in one, you don't realize that there is a dependency of neurochemical addiction that you are fighting, and the brain isn't really helping people in domestic abusive relationships. Now, the 4 chemicals that are at play here are number 1, oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, the endogenous opioids, which is responsible for pleasure, pain, and withdrawal, the corticotropin releasing factor, which is responsible for stress and withdrawal, and finally, my personal favorite, dopamine, which is responsible for seeking, wanting, and craving. Now, for all you healthy lovebirds out there, remember at the beginning of your relationship, during the honeymoon period where you're looking through rose-tinted glasses and your partner's jokes were always so funny and you couldn't get enough of them and the whole world just kind of faded away and it was between the two of you. Well, that was actually your body producing large amounts of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. If you're in a domestically abusive relationship, you're getting these in large amounts. You're also experiencing the endogenous opioids and the corticotropin releasing factor, which is typically used during breakups for normal, healthy lovebirds. And also, what was the other one? Yeah, death. How we mourn people. With such strong neurochemical reactions in dysregulated states, it is impossible to make sound and reasonable logical decisions. I also think boredom comes into play a little bit. Hear me out on this. I look back at like certain, partnerships I had, I really didn't have much going on other than that. And you really can't, because it has to take up all of your energy. I made a habitual liar into a fantastic liar because I was always working on the relationship. I was always trying to catch a lie and explain how I feel, and I just didn't have the mentality of preserving or protecting myself. I just wanted my daily dose of oxytocin and dopamine. When I had resolved and made the decision that I wanted peace in my life as opposed to getting someone to treat me with respect, certain people just kind of faded away. Because you also have to understand that your perpetrator is also addicted to this, right? And there's a variety of reasons as to why they would abuse people, whether it be substance abuse, personality disorders like narcissism. But can I tell you something? You are not these men's rehab. Like, you're not. And you're not in a state of mind that could help them. Trained professionals have a really difficult time with people with personality disorder because they're not focused on how to be better. They're focused on how to get better. Manipulating and abusing and lying. And if you're anyone like me where you think that maybe your partner wants to just fuck their therapist, you're gonna sit there and train them into being fantastic liars. And you're gonna hurt your self-esteem. You know, probably the worst thing about an abusive relationship in hindsight now is the damage that you do for yourself. You don't trust yourself anymore. You don't believe in your instincts. You second guess how you interact in relationships because you're working with people who get off on, you know, gaslighting you. And at some points even convinced me where I was like, am I the abusive one? It takes two to tango. So I'm sure there was abuse in that, and my reaction was abusive. But what can you do, you know? I think that sitting down and, you know, I can logically explain to you if you are in this situation, which I hope you are not, but I can logically explain to you that you are not going to get through to him. You're not going to better his life and then him make this realization that you're the one that stuck through for him, and then he's gonna treat you with this respect that you deserve, because truth of the matter is even if he did, I don't think it's what you want. A lot of times the only thing you really have in common in an abusive relationship is the abuse itself. And when you're not getting that withdrawal and then meeting those dopamines over and over again, it's just not going to be anything that you want anymore. So are we just victims to our nature and to our inner psyche? Not entirely. Really stress on this channel about rewiring yourself and figuring out, and the first thing that you can do is self-admission, right? Why are you in this situation? And really deeply be honest with yourself and how you can remedy it. Also know that your life does matter. You need to look in the mirror and say, my life matters, my health matters, my safety matters, and anyone who's going to jeopardize that doesn't love me or themselves or anyone around them, because we're just not programmed to treat people that way. You know, I always say I'm a smart girl, and if I can't figure it out, it's probably because it's just too complicated for me. And I think that if things aren't working out in your relationship, you need to focus on the things in your life that are working out. Because it's like factory work, and if you let your friends kind of go down the drain, and you let your work go down the drain, and your self-esteem down the drain, all to fix something that is not working, you're gonna come back to things that no longer work at all. And I think that the best way to overcome these circumstances is to dig deep in yourself and find confidence within yourself and work on the things in your life that you have control over. You don't have control over a man who takes little consideration for your safety. And you have to realize that this inner calling of that this is your soulmate and somebody you're destined to work things out with, because that's just how it feels, is just your brain fucking going haywire. It's like, I don't know how to respond to this. So we're gonna pump you full of hormones. You can attempt to fix somebody, but the price is pretty high, and your life should not be a price that you are willing to pay. You know, I think that you should take the time to put stock into yourself and into your career and into the things that would make you happy about yourself, and prove to yourself that you are a woman that deserves respect and deserves love. And until you prove that to yourself, maybe you should just get a dog. All right, guys, I think that is it for me today. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Also, leave a link down below. I absolutely love hearing trans women saying that they are in healthy, happy relationships, and prove these statistics wrong, you know? I'm Charlotte on the web, and until next week, I'm gonna miss you guys so much.